Jack Miller is a 23-year-old young man from a modest working-class neighborhood in Detroit, Michigan. He is known for his unyielding spirit, his honest determination, and his belief that true love can break even the harshest boundaries. Emily Carter, a 21-year-old from a wealthy family in New York City, is graceful, intelligent, and compassionate, though caught between her own desires and her father's strict expectations. Richard Carter, Emily's father, is a self-made businessman who has built a fortune in real estate and finance. His stern beliefs and protective nature have long dictated his disapproval of any relationship that might compromise the future he envisions for his daughter. The story. In the gray light of an early autumn morning in Detroit, Jack Miller set out on his daily route with a sense of purpose and quiet determination. The chill in the air seemed to mirror his internal resolve, a promise to himself that no hardship, no matter how severe, could dim the light of his dreams. Having grown up in a neighborhood where opportunity was a scarce resource, Jack had learned early that life was a series of battles, each requiring grit and perseverance. His eyes, though tired from the weight of responsibilities, sparkled with hope each time he thought of the future he longed to share with someone who truly understood him. Meanwhile, half a country away in the bustling heart of New York City, Emily Carter awoke to the soft chime of an antique clock in her family's elegant apartment overlooking Central Park. Despite the opulence that surrounded her, a life replete with every luxury imaginable, Emily often found herself lost in a maze of expectations. Her father, Richard Carter, had carefully curated every aspect of her existence, her education, her social engagements, even the company she kept. Deep inside, however, Emily yearned for a connection that wasn't based solely on status or wealth, a connection that could validate her innermost self, far beyond the glimmering surface of high society. Their paths were destined to cross on a crisp, clear Saturday in late October. Jack had managed to secure a temporary assignment in New York, a rare opportunity that allowed him to work as a handyman on various projects in a historic brownstone in Brooklyn. It was a job that paid just enough to get him through the winter, but it also carried with it the promise of something more, the chance to see a world so different from his own, where dreams weren't confined by the immediate pressures of survival. One overcast afternoon, while Jack was repairing a creaking window in a stately old building, fate intervened in the form of a misdirected delivery. A parcel meant for a resident on a higher floor had inadvertently been dropped off in his work area. As he balanced on a rickety ladder to return the package, his eyes inadvertently met those of Emily, who was coming to retrieve it herself. For a moment, time seemed to suspend as their gazes locked, two souls reaching out across the divide of circumstance. Emily's eyes, wide with curiosity and a trace of longing, mirrored the intensity of Jack's hopeful smile. Their initial exchange was brief yet electric. Emily's soft voice, tinged with both wonder and a subtle defiance against the polished norms of her world, introduced her as Emily Carter. Jack, still catching his breath from the climb, responded with a modest, "I'm Jack Miller." That moment was the spark of an unlikely connection. Over the following days, their interactions grew from casual greetings to purposeful conversations. They found themselves discussing everything from the simple beauty of a summer sunset over the Detroit River to the complexities of high art displayed in New York's grand museums. Each conversation peeled back layers of the personas they were expected to project, revealing raw emotions and shared dreams. As autumn deepened, so did their bond. They began meeting in quiet coffee shops tucked away in Brooklyn and strolling along tree-lined streets, where the russet and gold leaves whispered secrets of ancient change. Their conversations flowed naturally, revealing hidden fears and aspirations. Jack confided in Emily about his struggles, his long days at menial jobs, his determination to rise above poverty, and his hope that one day he might offer a life filled with dignity and love. In return, Emily spoke candidly about her own conflicts, the gilded cage of privilege, the loneliness that often accompanied a life dictated by others, and the longing to embrace a love that was honest and unfiltered. Yet, even as their affection blossomed, the looming specter of disapproval began to cast a long shadow. News of Emily's burgeoning relationship with Jack inevitably reached Richard Carter. For him, the idea of his daughter, who was groomed for a future of grandeur and social prominence, being with someone who embodied every hardship he wished to protect her from, was simply unacceptable. Richard Carter believed that the stability of wealth and the promise of a certain future should never be jeopardized by the unpredictable nature of love. He saw Jack's humble background as an insurmountable barrier, a flaw that could not be remedied by mere affection. One chilly evening, as rain began to tap gently against the windows of the Carter family's luxurious townhouse in Manhattan, Richard confronted Emily. His voice was measured but edged with a stern firmness that brooked no argument. "Emily," he began, his gaze fixed with unwavering intensity, "you must understand that relationships like this, with someone from Jack's world, this is not the future I envision for you. Our world, our way of life, is built on stability and legacy. I cannot allow you to jeopardize that by following a path that leads only to hardship and uncertainty." Emily, tears welling in her eyes, tried to explain that love was not about social classes or wealth, but about the connection of hearts and souls. "But Daddy, isn't love supposed to make us feel whole? I believe that what Jack and I share is real, something that transcends the boundaries you try to impose. His dreams are not just his own. They are our dreams if you'll let them be," she pleaded, her voice trembling with both fear and determination. Richard's face hardened, and his reply was laced with a bitterness born of years of self-sacrifice and struggle. "Dreams that lead to poverty and instability are not dreams at all. They are illusions, dangerous illusions that will ruin you." His refusal was final, and the chasm between father and daughter deepened with each passing moment of that painful confrontation. Devastated yet resolute, Emily withdrew from her father's suffocating expectations, clinging tightly to the hope that love would someday prove its worth. Meanwhile, Jack found himself grappling with the dual challenge of forging a future for himself and overcoming the barrier of class that separated him from the woman he loved. In the weeks that followed, he threw himself into his work with renewed vigor, taking on extra shifts, learning new skills, and even attending night classes at a community college in Brooklyn. Every sacrifice he made was fueled by the belief that his worth was not defined by the size of his bank account, but by the strength of his character and the depth of his love. In the quiet hours of the night, Jack would sit by the window in his modest Brooklyn apartment, penning letters that he never dared to send, letters in which he poured out his innermost fears, dreams, and vows of eternal love. He wrote of a future where their struggles would be remembered as the stepping stones to a life filled with dignity, respect, and mutual support. Each word was a testament to his unwavering faith in a love that could transform lives. "Emily," he wrote in one of those heartfelt missives, "I may not have riches or a grand estate, but I promise you that every day of my life will be a struggle to give you the world you deserve. One day, we will overcome every obstacle, and together we will build a life of true wealth, one measured not in dollars, but in moments of happiness and in the strength of our bond." As winter set in, the chill of the season seemed to mirror the coldness of the world around them. Rumors and whispers began to circulate among the circles of high society that Emily's defiance of her father's wishes was more than a fleeting romance. The social elite, with their penchant for judgment and gossip, whispered that Emily was jeopardizing everything by aligning herself with a man deemed unworthy. The pressure from society, combined with her father's relentless disapproval, created an almost insurmountable barrier between her and the life she wished to lead. But love, as it often does, found ways to persist in the most unlikely places. Emily and Jack continued to meet in secret, each rendezvous a defiant act against a world determined to keep them apart. They would slip away during moments of twilight to meet at the old pier in Brooklyn, where the hum of the city faded into a gentle murmur, leaving them alone with the sound of their racing hearts. Under the soft glow of streetlights, they shared whispered promises and dreams of a future where their differences would no longer matter. One such evening, as a light snow began to dust the city streets, they sat huddled on a bench along the waterfront, their breaths visible in the cool night air. "I know it's hard," Emily murmured, her eyes reflecting both sorrow and resolve. "Every time we meet, I feel like I'm stepping further away from everything I was expected to be." Jack reached out, his hand covering hers in a gesture both tender and determined. "Emily, you are more than what they expect you to be. You are the person who sees the beauty in every struggle and the strength in every tear. I may not be rich, but my love for you is richer than any fortune." The words, simple yet profound, resonated with the quiet determination that had become the heartbeat of their secret world. Time, however, is not easily swayed by the passions of the heart. The relentless pressure from society and the constant barrage of disapproval from Richard Carter took their toll on both lovers. Emily found herself caught between the two worlds, one that demanded conformity to the rules of wealth and status, and the other that celebrated the raw, unpolished truth of her feelings for Jack. The internal conflict was palpable, and every stolen moment with Jack was tinged with the bittersweet taste of forbidden love. Yet in the midst of these trials, Jack's determination only grew stronger. He began taking on more significant projects around the city, his reputation for hard work and unwavering reliability spreading among those who knew him. It wasn't long before local community leaders and even some influential business figures took notice of his talent and his relentless drive. Offers of small partnerships and opportunities began to trickle in, each one a stepping stone toward the future he so desperately wished to build, not only for himself, but for the life he envisioned with Emily. One crisp spring morning in Brooklyn, as the city began to shake off the remnants of winter, Jack received an unexpected phone call from a small but influential construction firm. They had heard of his skills and his relentless work ethic and wanted to offer him a position that promised better pay, more stability, and a chance to work on major projects across the city. Jack's heart swelled with hope as he realized that this opportunity could be the turning point he had been waiting for, a chance to prove not only to the world but also to Richard Carter that he was capable of providing the future Emily deserved. With this new opportunity came a flurry of emotions. Every moment at work was now a testament to his determination to rewrite his destiny. His colleagues noticed the quiet confidence that radiated from him, and soon the name Jack Miller became synonymous with reliability and perseverance. Even as his professional life began to flourish, however, his heart remained anchored to Emily. Their secret meetings became more precious than ever, their conversations more intense, and their shared dreams more vivid. Emily, too, was in the throes of transformation. The internal battle she had long fought now took on a new dimension. In the opulent halls of her father's mansion in New York, where the glitter of wealth once seemed to overshadow every moment, she began to see that there was more to life than the rigid expectations that had been imposed upon her. The love she shared with Jack had ignited in her a newfound sense of purpose, a desire to live for herself, even if it meant risking everything. She started taking small steps to assert her own identity, attending classes at a local community college, and engaging with causes that aimed to bridge the divide between different social classes. Her transformation did not go unnoticed. Friends and even distant relatives remarked on her newfound passion for life, though many remained skeptical about her choices. But the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. Richard Carter, determined to protect the legacy he had so meticulously built, escalated his efforts to keep Emily away from Jack. Invitations to social events were rescinded, and the once warm family gatherings turned cold and tense. Richard's disapproval was palpable in every conversation, and every visit home became a reminder of the sacrifices Emily was expected to make for the sake of maintaining the family's honor. In one particularly heated confrontation at the Carter estate in Manhattan, Richard's voice boomed with authority as he addressed his daughter in front of a gathering of relatives. "Emily, you must choose," he declared. "You can either honor the legacy of this family and step into the future we have planned for you, or you can continue down this foolish path with a man who can offer you nothing but hardship. I will not allow our family name to be tarnished by such a union." The words, sharp and uncompromising, cut through Emily like a knife, yet even as tears streamed down her face, her resolve hardened. She knew in her heart that love was not something that could be measured by wealth or social standing. It was something that had the power to transform even the bleakest of circumstances into moments of sublime beauty. As the months turned into years, Jack's career steadily advanced. His work ethic, combined with a natural knack for understanding both the technical and human aspects of construction, allowed him to rise from the humble position of a handyman to that of a trusted project manager overseeing multiple ventures. His journey was punctuated by setbacks and moments of self-doubt. Yet every obstacle only deepened his commitment to the life he envisioned with Emily. Late nights spent poring over blueprints, early mornings on construction sites, and the relentless hustle of networking and learning became the norm for Jack. In every challenge, he saw the reflection of his own struggle, a struggle not just for financial stability, but for the dignity and recognition he had long been denied. The seasons changed, and as summer blossomed over the United States, the cityscapes of Brooklyn, Detroit, and New York served as silent witnesses to the evolution of two lives intertwined by fate. One warm evening in July, when the air was heavy with the scent of blooming flowers and the hum of distant traffic, Jack and Emily found themselves alone on a quiet rooftop overlooking the New York skyline. The city lights sparkled like distant stars, and for a brief moment the world seemed to hold its breath. With sincerity that needed no pretense, Jack took Emily's hand and spoke softly. "I have spent my life trying to prove that love can rise above every obstacle. I know our journey has been marked by pain and sacrifice, but I believe that our love is stronger than any force that seeks to keep us apart." Emily, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, nodded. "I've lived in a world where I was expected to conform to a destiny that wasn't mine," she replied. "But with you, I have found the courage to be who I truly am, even if it means facing the storm head-on." Their conversation stretched deep into the night, a mixture of dreams, memories, and vows. In the days that followed, as the heat of summer began to wane and the first hints of autumn appeared, the couple made plans that would forever alter the course of their lives. Jack, buoyed by his professional successes and the unyielding support of Emily's love, began to envision a future where their differences would merge into a shared destiny. He started saving every dollar, investing time in learning more about business management, and even seeking advice from mentors who had once been in his shoes. His goal was not just to survive, but to thrive, to build a life that would one day earn him the respect of everyone who had ever doubted him. For Emily, the transformation was equally profound. With every passing day, she found herself breaking free from the constraints of her privileged past. Determined to carve out her own identity, she pursued interests that defied the narrow path laid out by her father. She volunteered at local community centers, engaged in dialogues about social justice, and even began writing about her experiences, chronicling the journey of a young woman caught between two worlds. Her articles, published in local magazines and online journals, resonated with readers who too felt trapped by societal expectations, and slowly her voice began to stir change. However, the most formidable challenge still loomed large: winning over Richard Carter's heart and trust. As Jack's star continued to rise, Richard's opposition grew more entrenched. A series of formal family gatherings became battlegrounds of ideology. At one such dinner in an opulent Manhattan dining hall, the tension in the room was palpable. Richard, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, spoke with a tone that brooked no dissent. "Emily, I have worked my entire life to build a legacy, and I will not see it crumble because of reckless decisions. This man, regardless of his recent successes, comes from a background that is incompatible with our values. Emily, sitting across from her father, met his gaze with a quiet, unwavering defiance. "Father, I have seen the man behind the label," she said softly, her voice steady despite the undercurrent of emotion. "I see a man who has overcome hardships and who loves me with a passion that challenges the very foundations of my world. How can you dismiss the worth of his character simply because of the circumstances of his birth?" The room fell silent, every guest aware of the weight of her words. In that moment, the gulf between two generations seemed wider than ever, a divide between old-world values and a new dawn of equality and understanding. Despite the public battles and private pain, the love between Jack and Emily continued to flourish in quiet, everyday moments. They celebrated small victories, a shared laugh over a home-cooked meal, a whispered conversation on a city park bench, a tender touch that spoke of promises made in the darkest hours of the night. Each moment was a testament to the fact that love, when nurtured with faith and resilience, could indeed overcome the most formidable obstacles. As autumn gave way to winter, the challenges that had once seemed insurmountable began to yield small victories. Jack's relentless efforts at work were rewarded with a significant promotion, one that not only increased his earnings, but also solidified his reputation in the community. His journey from the streets of Detroit to the boardrooms of New York was becoming a living proof of his capabilities. Slowly, even those who had once looked down upon him began to acknowledge his achievements. His newfound status, however, was not the sole measure of his worth. His true value was reflected in the depth of his character, his unwavering honesty, and his love for Emily. The turning point came one snowy evening when, after a long day filled with backbreaking work and moments of self-doubt, Jack found himself standing at the doorstep of a modest apartment complex in Brooklyn. There, under the soft glow of a street lamp, he met with Emily one last time before taking the bold step that would forever change their lives. "Emily," he said, his voice thick with emotion as the snowfall blurred the outlines of the world around them. "I have fought every day to become the man I needed to be, not just for me, but for you, for us. I know that our love has faced storms that could have torn us apart, but every trial has only strengthened my resolve. I want to spend my life proving that love is worth every struggle." Emily, with tears glistening on her cheeks and her heart pounding in her chest, replied, "Jack, I have always known that love is not defined by wealth or status. It is measured in moments of sacrifice, in the courage to follow our hearts even when the world says otherwise. I believe in you, and I believe in us. No matter what our future holds, I want to face it by your side." In that moment, as the snowfall blanketed the city in a serene white calm, they made the decision to build a future together, one that defied the rigid boundaries of social expectation and was fueled purely by the strength of their love. They began planning a modest wedding, one that would not be defined by extravagance, but by the genuine celebration of two souls who had overcome every obstacle in their path. Invitations were discreetly sent, and trusted friends who believed in their love helped orchestrate the day, ensuring that it would be a quiet, heartfelt affair that honored the journey they had shared. The days leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of emotions, excitement intermingled with the anxiety of facing a future that still held uncertainties. Richard Carter, though outwardly resistant, could no longer ignore the progress that Jack had made. His business acquaintances and community leaders began to speak of Jack's transformation with respect, and slowly, even Richard could not dismiss the possibility that his daughter's happiness might be found in the very love he had once tried to crush. One evening, after a long period of reflection and a series of heartfelt conversations with longtime friends, Richard found himself standing alone in the quiet study of the Carter mansion. The familiar portraits of ancestors looked on as he grappled with the realization that perhaps the rigid world he had built was beginning to crack. Have I been so blinded by my own fears that I failed to see the truth of her heart? He murmured to himself. Though he did not immediately call out to reconcile, that quiet moment of introspection marked the beginning of a slow, painful shift in perspective. The wedding day arrived on a bright, crisp morning in early spring. The ceremony was held in a small, charming venue in a suburb of Philadelphia, a location chosen for its simplicity and the genuine warmth of its community. The guest list was intimate, consisting of close friends and family members who had supported the couple throughout their arduous journey. Jack, dressed in a well-fitted suit that spoke of both modest means and hard-won respect, stood at the altar with a calm determination. His eyes, bright with hope and tempered by the weight of his past, met Emily's as she walked down the aisle. Emily's gown was not overly extravagant, but carried an elegance that was entirely her own. A perfect reflection of a woman who had learned to value authenticity over appearances. As they exchanged vows, the words they spoke were more than promises. They were declarations of defiance against a world that had tried to keep them apart. "I promise to honor you," Jack said softly, "not with riches or grand gestures, but with every breath I take, every challenge I overcome, and every moment of joy we share." Emily's voice trembled with emotion as she replied, "I promise to stand by you, to believe in us, even when the world tells me that our love is a mistake. Together, we will write our own destiny." In those moments, as they pledged their lives to each other, the long years of struggle, heartbreak, and isolation transformed into a celebration of victory, a triumph of love that had defied every expectation. After the ceremony, as the couple shared quiet moments with friends and family, even Richard Carter made a brief, tentative appearance. His eyes, though still guarded by years of habit and pride, held a glimmer of understanding. In a quiet conversation away from the festivities, he said to Emily, "I may not fully understand your choices, but I see the strength in you and in him. Perhaps in time, I can learn to accept that love is sometimes more powerful than tradition." It was not an outright apology, nor was it a sweeping change of heart, but it was a small step, a recognition that sometimes love demanded the rewriting of even the most long-held beliefs. The journey that had begun with chance encounters on a cold Brooklyn afternoon had led to a new beginning, one where two souls from disparate worlds had fought against the odds to carve a space for themselves in a society that had once seemed determined to keep them apart. Jack and Emily's story was not one of fairy tale perfection, but of real struggles, sacrifices, and triumphs. It was a story of two people who dared to dream, who worked relentlessly to prove that love, when nurtured with integrity and courage, could transform lives. In the months and years that followed, Jack continued to rise in his career, gradually earning the respect of even the most skeptical critics. His journey from a poor boy in Detroit to a respected project manager in New York was a constant reminder that one's background did not determine one's destiny. Emily, inspired by the struggles she had overcome, became an advocate for social change, using her own experiences to bridge the gap between different worlds and to champion the cause of true, unadorned love. Together they built a modest home in a quiet neighborhood in upstate New York, a place where the echoes of their past were woven into the foundation of a future built on hope, resilience, and a love that had withstood every storm. Their lives were not without challenges. There were days when the memories of rejection, the sting of social scorn, and the weight of familial expectations would seep into the quiet moments of their daily routine. Yet, every challenge they faced served as a reminder of how far they had come and the strength that lay within them. Each morning, as Jack left for work, and Emily set out to meet the day with a determination that defied her past, they carried with them the legacy of a love that had been forged in the crucible of adversity. Even as years turned into decades, their story remained a beacon of hope for those who believed in the transformative power of love. Their wedding photographs, faded by time but vibrant in the memories of those who witnessed the union, became symbols of the truth that no matter how deep the wounds of society's prejudice, the human heart was capable of healing, forgiving, and loving unconditionally. Jack and Emily's love story was, at its core, an ode to resilience, a reminder that true happiness is not measured by wealth or social standing, but by the courage to follow one's heart even in the face of insurmountable odds. It was a story of everyday bravery, where small acts of kindness, quiet defiance, and unwavering faith in the future added up to create a legacy of hope that could inspire generations to come. In a world that often seems divided by class, expectation, and circumstance, their journey stands as proof that love, in its purest form, is the ultimate equalizer. As the sun set on a life well lived, Jack and Emily looked back on the winding path that had brought them together, a path marked by trials, but illuminated by the brilliance of a love that never wavered. Their legacy was not written in the annals of wealth or prestige, but in the simple, enduring truth that two hearts, when united by genuine passion and unwavering determination, can transform even the bleakest of landscapes into a canvas of endless possibility. The years following their wedding brought both moments of unbridled joy and unforeseen challenges, each day adding a new layer to the tapestry of Jack and Emily's shared life. Their union, once a quiet defiance of societal constraints, now evolved into a partnership that would be tested by time, circumstance, and the ever-present echoes of their past. In the early days of their marriage, the couple settled into a modest yet warm home in upstate New York, a place where the chill of winter was softened by the glow of a well-tended hearth, and where the whispers of the past gave way to the promise of a future built together. Jack continued to rise in his career, his reputation as a diligent and innovative project manager growing with each new venture. His days were filled with long hours on construction sites and endless meetings with investors and community leaders. Yet even in the midst of his professional responsibilities, he always made time to return to the small kitchen where Emily would often have a pot of soup simmering, a daily ritual that reminded them both of the power of home and the importance of small, shared moments. Emily, on the other hand, embraced her new role not only as a wife, but as an advocate for those who, like Jack, had once been overlooked by a world obsessed with wealth and status. She became increasingly involved in community outreach programs, working with local organizations that provided support and education to underprivileged youth. Her articles, now more personal and infused with the wisdom of lived experience, began to appear in local newspapers, capturing the attention of readers who saw in her a kindred spirit, someone who had dared to bridge the divide between two very different worlds. With every speech and every heartfelt interview, she chipped away at the rigid barriers that once separated the privileged from the hopeful. Despite the strength of their bond, the legacy of their early struggles continued to cast shadows over quiet evenings. Occasionally, old memories would resurface in unexpected ways. A stray comment in a social gathering, the dismissive tone of a business associate, or the silent judgment in the eyes of those who had once scorned their union. On one particularly crisp autumn evening, as golden leaves danced outside their window, Jack and Emily sat together on a worn but comfortable sofa. The quiet hum of the television was overshadowed by their shared reminiscences of days filled with uncertainty and the pain of unyielding rejection. "Do you ever wonder," Jack began softly, "if the world will ever truly accept us for who we are, not just for what we have achieved, but for the love that built this life?" Emily rested her head on his shoulder, her voice trembling with both vulnerability and hope. "Every day," she confessed. "But perhaps acceptance isn't something the world can give us. It's something we create for ourselves. Every time we stand up for our truth, every time we show kindness despite the hurt, we make the world a little brighter." Their mutual determination became the foundation upon which they built not only a home, but also a small community center that opened its doors to those in need. Here, in a renovated old building in a quiet neighborhood, locals could attend free workshops on everything from financial literacy to art therapy. Jack would often speak about the value of hard work and perseverance, while Emily would share her journey of self-discovery, encouraging others to embrace their unique paths. The center slowly transformed into a haven of hope, a living reminder that love, when channeled into service, could ripple through society in ways that were both subtle and profound. Yet, the journey was not without its tests. One summer, as a particularly harsh heat wave swept through the region, the community center faced unexpected financial strain. Donations dwindled, and maintenance costs soared and for a while, the future of the center seemed uncertain. Jack, who had always prided himself on his ability to overcome obstacles, found himself wrestling with doubts. Late into the night, after a long day of negotiations with vendors and brainstorming sessions with community leaders, he would sit at his desk, poring over financial reports and trying to map out a path to stability. In those quiet moments, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders, and the echoes of a past, where every day was a battle for survival, resonated deeply. Emily, ever the beacon of resilience, rallied the community with impassioned speeches and personal visits to every donor and volunteer she could reach. Her determination to save the center became a rallying cry, and slowly, support trickled back in. Neighbors organized bake sales, local businesses offered sponsorships, and former beneficiaries returned to share stories of how the center had transformed their lives. The crisis, rather than fracturing their spirit, forged a stronger bond between the couple and the community they had helped nurture. Amid these professional and communal endeavors, the couple also faced personal challenges that tested the intimacy of their relationship. As time passed, the pressures of balancing work, community service, and the inevitable personal struggles began to chip away at the seamless perfection they had once hoped for. Misunderstandings emerged, small at first, but gradually accumulating into moments of tension. There were nights when disagreements, sparked by exhaustion or the unspoken burden of their shared history, led to quiet silences in their once vibrant home. Yet, even in these moments of discord, they discovered the beauty of compromise and the healing power of forgiveness. Each conflict, resolved with tenderness and open dialogue, deepened their understanding of one another. They learned that love was not a constant state of euphoria, but rather a series of peaks and valleys, a dynamic journey that required patience, empathy, and a willingness to grow together. Over the years, their home witnessed the unfolding of new chapters. Birthdays were celebrated with heartfelt gatherings that brought together people from all walks of life. Friends who had once doubted, neighbors who had come to admire, and even some members of the old elite who had softened in the wake of their undeniable dedication. Photographs lining the walls captured moments of candid laughter, quiet introspection, and the raw beauty of everyday life. In one frame, Emily's eyes sparkled as she stood in a garden that she had lovingly cultivated, a garden that symbolized her own journey of blooming despite adversity. In another, Jack was caught mid-laugh, a reminder that despite the hardships, joy was always within reach when shared with someone who truly understood you. A decade into their marriage, as the couple celebrated their anniversary with a modest yet intimate dinner in their backyard, a surprising visitor arrived at their door. Richard Carter, who had long maintained a cautious distance, now stood on their porch, a man visibly aged by the weight of time and introspection. His visit was unannounced, and for a long moment, the three of them stood in a tentative silence that spoke of unspoken words and old wounds. Richard's eyes, still sharp but softened by years of reflection, met Emily's with a mixture of regret and hope. "I have come to understand," he said quietly, "that the love you share with Jack is not something to be feared. but something that has enriched all our lives. I was once blinded by my own expectations, but now I see that true wealth lies not in the accumulation of fortune, but in the depth of human connection. The reunion was cautious, a series of tentative conversations, long walks in quiet parks, and evenings spent sharing memories of a past that now seemed both distant and instructive. Richard's slow transformation did not erase the years of tension, but it opened a door to reconciliation that had once seemed permanently shut. For Emily, this was a bittersweet moment, a validation of her own courage, and a reminder that the journey to acceptance, both from others and from within, was an ongoing process. As the seasons continued to change, Jack and Emily found themselves navigating the delicate balance between their personal ambitions and the responsibilities that came with the lives they had chosen to lead. Their community center expanded its reach, establishing satellite programs in neighboring towns and offering mentorship to young people seeking to rewrite their own stories. Jack's career reached new heights as he became involved in larger infrastructural projects that not only improved urban landscapes, but also provided employment opportunities for those who, like him, had once struggled against the odds. Every new project was imbued with the same sense of purpose that had defined his early days, a belief that every brick laid and every blueprint drawn was a step towards a more equitable future. In quieter moments, when the hustle of the day gave way to the stillness of the night, Jack and Emily would often find themselves sitting on the porch of their home, watching the stars emerge one by one in the clear, vast sky. These moments of reflection were filled with unspoken gratitude for the love that had carried them through hardships, for the community that had rallied around them, and for the personal growth that had transformed both their hearts and minds. They spoke of dreams yet to be fulfilled, of adventures still waiting on distant horizons, and of the enduring belief that every challenge was but a precursor to a new beginning. The passage of time, with all its joys and sorrows, wove a narrative that was uniquely theirs, a narrative marked by the scars of past struggles and the luminous promise of a shared future. Their story, though rooted in the pain of early rejection and societal disdain, blossomed into a testament to the transformative power of love, resilience, and the courage to defy convention. Jack and Emily had learned that the true measure of success was not found in material wealth or social standing, but in the ability to forge connections that transcended differences, to find beauty in imperfection, and to create a legacy that would inspire those who came after. In the twilight of their years, as they sat side by side, watching the gentle fall of dusk over the rolling hills of upstate New York, Jack and Emily often recalled the long, winding road that had brought them together. Their eyes, reflecting a lifetime of shared triumphs and trials, held stories of laughter, of tears, and of an unwavering commitment to one another. They had built not just a home, but a sanctuary where love was celebrated in every gesture, where hope was cultivated with every act of kindness, and where the memories of yesterday served as a guiding light for the promise of tomorrow. Their legacy lived on in the countless lives they had touched, a legacy that extended far beyond the confines of their own experience. The community center, thriving and vibrant, stood as a monument to their vision. A vision where every individual, regardless of background or circumstance, could find a place of acceptance and the tools to build a better life. Neighbors, former skeptics, and even those who had once cast judgment now spoke with admiration of the couple who had dared to dream differently. In quiet conversations at community events or in the soft murmur of gatherings over shared meals, people would often recount the story of Jack and Emily, not as a fairy tale free of hardship, but as a real-life testament to the enduring power of love. Their journey had been marked by sacrifices and setbacks, yet through it all, they had remained true to the belief that every struggle was worth enduring if it led to the creation of something meaningful and lasting. And so, as the stars of another clear night began to sparkle overhead, Jack and Emily continued their gentle journey, one defined by the rhythms of everyday life, by the strength of a love that had been tested time and again, and by the quiet, unyielding truth that sometimes, against all odds, two hearts can indeed change the world together.